of mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your host, Sam. Sounds really weird. And I'm joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
The vivacious young girl was instantly reduced to a tossed human salad, a salad that police are still trying to gather up, a salad that once was named Elizabeth. Thank you.
Hiya! Trying to keep it together here. That was amazing. That was brilliant.
That was Shakespearean, wasn't
That
it?
was. That really was. Theatre. That's what was darling. It was theatre.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Monsters Up North podcast. We're gonna try and get through this episode without busting a gut because I don't think it's gonna happen. I say we as in the proverbial we because it's more I want to explore more 80s horror. Last year was a bit of an eye opener, and I'm like, I want to see some more. Even though I've already seen this, but I still want to see some more and I want to talk about some more. So I was like, how's about we've done the dreary Nosferatu? Never again. We move on to the classic, and I mean classic, Frankenhooker. Doesn't quite sound great with my accent, does it? Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker. She's German. She's big in Germany. Yeah.
Unlike us, who are big in Singapore.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Frankenhooker. It's I want to say it's 80s. It's not actually. It's 90s.
Cusp.
It's at the cusp. Yeah. So when I say like 80s horror, this is the kind of feel like I'm going for. So I'm going to do the disclaimer. I'm going to do the intro, and then we're going to get into the madness that is Frankenhooker. Sure. Everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, come and join us on our Facebook pages. Join us on our socials, or join us in the comments section where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. Especially on this one. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism. You gotta do it.
Don't just no. Don't be a dick.
Just don't do it. Don't do it. Right. I'm gonna do this without laughing.
Lies.
Frankenhooker, the 1990s horror comedy, co-written and directed by Frank Henenlotter. Very loosely inspired by the 1880 novel Frankenstein or the modern-day Prometheus. Let's get ready for a terrifying tale of sluts and bolts as Monsters Up North brings you Frankenhooker.
Sluts and bolts.
Sluts and bolts.
If I had a nightclub, I feel like that's an awesome
That's the name of our band.
Oh, or first album.
Yeah. Sluts and bolts.
The grungy, the Chicago 80s, early 90s.
A lot of plaid shirts. Ripped jeans, the lot. That's the tagline for this movie. I wasn't going to use it because of the sluts reference, and it's a word I don't actually really like. But I was like, oh, how weird, sluts and bolts. Come on.
It's of the time. Everything we talk about within an episode is of the time. So if we use a word, it's not because we necessarily like it. It's just because it's used in the film a lot, or it's an ongoing theme, or so the connotations of this as well. I will not be referring to everybody by today's standards, as in sex workers or things like that. They are classed as in here as hookers. It's in the name of the film. If I refer to somebody who is a sex worker as a hooker, it's not meant with any bad will. It is just of the time. So I wanted to get that out of the way and all.
Nice disclaimer. I'm just going to say it. This film is very tittylicious. I can't put that in a... I mean, I probably could put that in a better term, but to be honest, there's so many. It's like, it's just a tit fest. It is, though. It actually is a whole barrel bucket full of tits.
Oh, it's a bucket full of tits, yeah.
Bucket full of tits. It's another name of your album.
That's the hard second album, that one. Sluts and Bolts is the first, and Bucket Full of Tits is the second. That goes for a more like the first one's very grungy, like I say, Chicago. The second one, Bucket Full of Tits, is more I want to say calypso. Those are palm trees. A bit like Agadoo. I want to cover Agadoo on it, you know, like
oh my god,
Black Lace experience there.
It's a good job I didn't wear a lot of eye makeup today. So Dan, want a date? Looking for some action? Need some company? You can't really do that without shouting, can you?
No, because she did. She just randomly shouted at strangers.
Shouted. Oh gosh. Just out of curiosity, and just so our listeners know, when was the first time you watched Frankenhooker?
About 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, I think the first time it was when I watched it. And I say that because I remember, I was saying this to you earlier, I remember seeing it when the Horror Channel first come out on Freeview. It was a massive thing. There was a Horror Channel. It was like, finally, something for me. Yay. And they had Frankenhooker on. And I remember seeing it and remembering weird things. But you know, it's like a fever dream, because when you go back and watch it, you think you imagined half of the stuff that you remembered from the film, but actually you remembered everything from the film, and it actually happened. It was like,
yeah,
right.
This is a genuine bona fide film.
How?
I don't know. Really don't know. Mine was a couple of years ago. I saw a person cosplay as the main character and was like, hello, what's going on here? Let me see. Diana Prince, who hosts the late night Joe Bob Briggs, she dresses up as Elizabeth quite a lot. She looks absolutely fantastic doing it. So yeah, I was like, I need to have a look at this, and instantly, brain with an eye in the jar.
Yeah,
just got me really, really hooked.
The Brain That Wouldn't Die, isn't it? It's loosely based on The Brain That Wouldn't Die, which I only discovered through Elvira when she used to do her midnight showing. When she used to do those, one of the films she did was The Brain That Wouldn't Die, and it's it's one of those ones that I saw so long ago, but I remembered it, and the minute I saw that brain, I was like,
there it is.
And then when I was doing the research, I was like, I could put it to the film because my brain couldn't connect the two at first. But at the dinner table, at the dinner table,
with a family who thought it was completely and utterly normal for whatever fuckery was going on in that kitchen. Normal.
Not even his house.
No, not even his house at all. Frank Hellenbottom, Henna Lotta. Yeah. We should all know this name. We covered one of his films last year. Basket Case. Another.
Which you can see the strong special effects similarity.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Brain Damage, which is not to be confused with Peter Jackson's Brain Damage, because that's what I did. I went, no, he didn't. And then I was like, oh, he actually did. But it's not the one I'm thinking of.
No.
Do you know who is a huge fan of this movie? You actually have him tattooed on you. I mean, there's a lot of people you could... Bill Murray.
I was just thinking, go through my tattoos going...
Yeah. Bill Murray is a huge fan of this and publicly endorsed it around the time of its release.
I heard, I saw an interview with Frank, and he was saying that this is not a horror movie. He strongly and vehemently will say this is not a horror movie in any way. To him, it's a comedy / exploitation film. Now, those of you that know the difference between a horror and an exploitation will understand that exploitations are dark, dirty, gritty, low budget, and very pushed to the brink of what is acceptable to be even given a rating. You know, you're talking about films like Maniac. That was an exploitation film. Modern day exploitation films would be something along the lines of a Serbian film. That is dark.
Something we'll never cover.
I don't think I could watch that again. I've got to be honest. I turned it off when it got to that part, and I was like, "No, I'm done. Off." You know, I managed to get to that point. I don't know how I even got to that point, and there's probably only about 5 minutes left after that. But I was just like, "No, I'm done now."
I mean, I'm reacting like I'm in a bad place with that film, but it literally is. I am having a possible allergic reaction to something. So excuse the itching. Beverly Bonner, remember her? She was in Basket Case. We absolutely adored her in Basket Case. She's in this movie too. Couldn't find her.
Was she in the crowd of the hookers?
She's cast. Oh God, was she?
Or was she at the family scene at the beginning? I don't know, because I wasn't watching anything. Because to be honest with you, this film, in every way, is wrong.
Well, yes.
Because if you look at the opening scene, he's sat there. He's got a brain with an eyeball inside the brain, not in front. You know, like if you're to look at a diagram of a brain, you have the brain and the eyeballs come off of the brain. Like whenever you see a traditional, if you ever see a floating brain with eyeballs, they're like not embedded into the brain. This eyeball is embedded into the brain, and I'm like,
it's weird.
Yeah, I think that's what it's quite unsettling in a way, because you're looking at it going, that doesn't seem right. Why they made that choice?
Don't know.
No.
I do like the whole what I found hilarious, and I didn't know it was when he's looking at the monitor, he's going, follow my hand, and the eyes like looking dead straight on. And it's like, and it's like he's convincing you it's actually doing it until you look at it and it's not. And then he gives it a lobotomy.
Yeah. He literally sticks a scalpel right in the middle of the brain, and then it just goes off. And then the mother-in-law comes in and goes, "Can you pass me the ketchup?" And
which is like, lodged in the cables. It's just lodged in these cables. Like it's not. Why is it there?
It's not. You know, some people are lazy, but I mean, really, it wouldn't have taken 2 seconds to just move that out of the way when he set up, would it? Let's be honest.
I'd be going, why is there ketchup amongst my wires? Why? Main character is called Jeffrey Franken.
Yes.
He's from New Jersey. Oh my God, is he from Jersey? That accent.
Honestly, proper New Jersey accent. But yeah, this guy has the majority of lines in this entire movie.
Oh yeah.
He must be a god at remembering things, because there isn't really a moment when he's not having a monologue.
Yeah, he talks to himself constantly.
And you don't need it. You don't need that dialogue. You don't need that amount of dialogue.
No.
In so many parts of this film. I mean, what he's doing, he's vocally setting the scene for people who can't watch with their eyes. Which that's not meant. Do you know what I mean? It's not meant for me saying anything derogatory towards people who cannot see. That's not what this is about.
No.
It's about people who are watching a film but don't really take it in, you know, like, and he's commentating everything that's happening to a point of where the audience are presumed to be so insanely dumb that they can't see what's happening, even though they're watching it. It's like, I'm like, oh, shut up, dude. Just give me a break. I know.
The director is totally making you like think you are stupid. Because this guy is going to talk all the way through it.
Because he's so clever, because look what he can do.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking genius, isn't he? He can only change people, like he can only bring women back to life.
Doesn't work with men.
No, Apparently not.
No.
Jeffrey Franken is a New Jerseyan who's a power plant worker by day and an amateur scientist by night
He's an amateur something.
who deals in bioelectricity.
It's the opening scene where, right, you're introduced to Elizabeth and she's outside with the family and they're having a barbecue and everything's lovely. And
Fucking horrible to her.
can I just mention something? The minute she stood up, I was like, why is she all padded weird?
Yeah, that threw me because if it wasn't for them beautiful eyes, I'd be like, I don't know who you are.
Nowhere else on her body was there an ounce of fat, but they chose to just pad her in the hips and gave her a bit of a bum. And I was like, I don't get what
No,
you're trying to. She's not fat. And then they
but
were
this
making like fat jokes and
it's
poking at her
awful.
weight and like don't eat the pretzels. And I'm like, what? What?
Do you know how addictive they are? Yeah, Patty Mullen, lovely lady who plays Elizabeth.
Mhm.
I hate this. It's the name. It's not like Playboy Bunny. She
No.
was Penthouse Pet of the Month of
Right.
August for 1986. Pet.
It makes me feel like she was sat next to old Hugh and he was like stroking her head. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Nah,
my little
stop.
precious. Yeah,
My,
just
my pet.
go
Blah,
there.
blah. Yeah, should pet. Ugh. That's a northern phrase.
All right, pet.
All right, pet. How you
All
doing,
right.
pet? Ah, you got it. You sound like Cheryl Cole, actually. Yeah, all
My name's
right.
Cheryl Cole.
Don't. Yeah.
Sarah Millican's the easiest one for me. But then there was a sketch that Vic and Bob once did about when they were talking to Sinead O'Connor, you know, when they used to dress up with the bald heads
Yes.
and the big shoes. And
Yeah.
they were interviewing Sinead O'Connor and they went, Sinead, do you go for a poo before you go on stage? And it's just stuck with me, that sketch, forever. And she was in tears. They were in tears because they were trying not to laugh so much. And it's always stuck with me. Do you go for a poo before you go on stage? And it sounds a bit Welsh, but trust me, that's how it came out. It was insane.
That's brilliant. I can only do accents if I've heard them like in comedy setting. Especially Kevin and Perry, the Manchester one, where Perry's been to Manchester and he comes back all dressed like Oasis and he just walks in and goes, all right, Kev. It just stays with us. I can't do Jeffrey Franken's accent though. That is too Jersey.
I can only do one New York accent, and that's it. I'm walking here. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all
Yeah.
you get. And sorry to
Waffy.
anybody who finds that offensive.
Yeah, it's all right. We've just checked
Get
our
over it.
listenership. We're not in New York. It's fine. Denver, though.
Yeah.
Don't know your accent either.
Coloradians.
Yeah, his accent's way too Jersey, but it's to be honest, Jeffrey Franken is not the worst part of this film.
Well, I'd say he is up there, but yeah.
I mean, oh gosh.
There is so much in this film to be going through right now. It's
like, where do you even start? I tell you where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start with one thing that kind of drew me to another interesting thing. So this film is it's the Frankenstein story done very differently, but it's also that's putting it mildly, but it's also about one man's obsession with another.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me thinking about a certain man who got incredibly obsessed with a certain person. I'm talking about Carl Tanzler. Carl Townsend. It's actually a count. Do you know Carl Townsend? He in the 1930s he got obsessed with what was her name? Maria Eleanor Mingoria de Hoyos.
Say that again.
No. She was a Cuban American and she was beautiful. She was everything. She had very little to do with this man, by the way. This is kind of like stalkering at its. This is stalkering at the highest. They call it obsession. That I don't even know if there's another word for it. Anyways, he's obsessed with her beauty. But like many people of her time, she died of tuberculosis.
I'm not laughing.
Um,
She died of TB. It's just of the time.
of the time. She was very young, and TB took her, and she was buried in a mausoleum. Anyone who doesn't know what a mausoleum is, it's a big, massive crypt, which you can actually walk into, walk back out of. They they can sometimes have people on display in there for a period of time before they're then kind of like put
Into
somewhere.
a tomb. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. She was in a mausoleum, and in 1931, he decided to go into the mausoleum and take her. He was that obsessed. He took her. He took her, and he had her in his house. And he was a documentary in 2021 made it out that there was certain forms of necrophilia happening, but it wasn't actually proven. He was obsessed with her beauty. And he kept this corpse for a very, very long time.
Is this the guy that just kept covering her in like paper mache?
Yeah.
Yes.
she
Do you know what? The more you've been talking about this, the more it sounded really familiar, but I couldn't place the
yeah.
names. Yeah.
He used, it was actually silk, and it was like soaked in wax, so
That's
it
it.
would give that
Yeah.
very paper mache kind of look. He also he what else? Wigs. Used to when her hair would fall out, he would just start creating wigs out of it. The eyes, he used glass
Mm.
to put in her eyes to make her look alive. So yeah, he kept the body for an incredibly long time until she was found in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
A very, very long time in between.
I've seen the photos. Yeah.
Yeah, she's but this is what I didn't get when I was reading about it. So this woman, this poor woman, is being taken out of her resting place and being in the hands of someone who is completely and utterly obsessed with her. You'd think they'd want to just get her back to where she belongs. Let the woman rest in peace. They didn't. Because she was very preserved, they put her on display for everyone to come and have a look. Come and have a look. Look at the dead lady. They literally put her on display. So yeah, um, the obsession doesn't stop there. This is the bit that really got me, and this is kind of what reminded me of this film, and it does kind of bring it all back around. So he's done this. He goes on with his life. He ends up living until in when was it? No, it can't have been 73. It had to have been a little bit earlier because he died in 52. So it had to have been around she was found. Sorry, in 1972, that's when she was put back in the ground.
Right.
So she
Yeah.
was found before that. My apologies. But anywho, he then goes on with his life. But his obsession doesn't stop there because he's made a cast of her face. And he's created a death mask, which he then creates a life-size effigy of her. Yeah. In his house. So he is with her forever. He actually was found dead. They said he must have been dead a couple of weeks, but he was found dead in the middle, lying right on top of this effigy.
Harks back to last week, doesn't it, with old Aaron Taylor Johnson in the crypt himself having a good old 1-2 with his wife.
Aye, that's true. Yeah, that's really true. But the reason they brought it back around for is because of the scene when. So in the movie, Elizabeth, who is incredibly fat shamed, which is fucking disgusting, by the way,
Yeah.
ends up getting killed by by a lawnmower.
Which couldn't do this kind of damage, but okay.
Yeah, chopped her up into shreds, kills her. It was a present that that herself and her soon-to-be husband were going to give her father, and it was all, because he's such a fucking genius when it comes to science, that he hooked this whole thing up and it ended up killing her.
Did you not hear though? The one thing that got me was when they were having the conversation about the stomach stapling, how he'd stapled her stomach for her, and her friend said, "Oh, she's not. I didn't know he was a doctor." And she's like, "No, no, no, he's an electrician for the electricity company." And she's like, but you let him do surgery on you. And she's like, yeah, it's really, really good.
Ant's really good at DIY. I'm not going to let him fucking stable me stomach for us.
It's like, okay.
Absolutely
then.
not. Oh, what have you got? Sorry, Binks has just come in and I think he's either chomping me while you're eating something he shouldn't be. Yeah, I forgot about that conversation because that was so weird. But this whole film is so weird, so it's like, how could you? But yeah,
this film, nothing happens, but a lot happens.
but a lot happens, yeah, at the same time. So yeah, she gets killed. Is this where we hear the news report?
Yes, this is where you get the mum. Basically, he's talking to himself with a big picture schematic of a female body, and he's drawing all over it like with an electric
This is where that
diagram.
came from.
Yeah.
Is because her face is on the top of this body picture thing that he's got.
Yeah.
So that's where that kind of like came from, like the obsession-y side.
Yeah, because he's drawing all over it, isn't he? Like with doing like a electrical mapping all over her
Looks
body.
very fancy.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that took some knowledge, regardless. But then he goes to the Grey's Anatomy book and he's cut out a hole in the middle of it and gets the VHS. Well, I say VHS, that was a Betamax.
That was Betamax.
For all of my
baby.
people out there that know the difference between a VHS and a Betamax, that was a Betamax. And he gets it out, puts it in, and starts watching the news report about how she died. And I'm like, dude, why did you even bother trying to hide it? Because your mum said when she walks through the door, were you watching it again? And I'm like, if she's well aware you're watching it, why are you hiding it in a Grey's
It was like it's like he was watching porn.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, 100%.
But he wasn't. He was watching a news report of he's got the best news report, by the way. If anyone hasn't seen this film, the opening Dan did was the news report.
I've got the full one, but that was honestly, it is the most ridiculous speech she does, this woman, right? What began as a birthday barbecue ended in bizarre tragedy in Hohokus, New Jersey today. It was the power mower that brought a quick end to the life of 21-year-old bride-to-be Elizabeth Shelley. Like wood through a mulcher, the girthful fiancée disappeared beneath the blades of the berserk mower that sent her personality raining down upon the birthday revelers. In a blaze of blood, bones, and body parts, the vivacious young girl was instantly reduced to a tossed human salad, a salad that police are still trying to gather up, a salad that once was named Elizabeth. I'm here all night.
I'll take all your bookings.
Honestly, it was out of the whole thing. The one thing that got me out of all that, the girthful fiance.
Girthful.
She was about as girthful as my little finger. I'm like,
it's when they're interviewing the policeman, and it's talking about missing body parts, and he goes, I can't comment on that right now. And she's like, what do you mean?
Say there's things missing.
Yeah, let's just say she's not all there. There's parts missing.
Like,
it's like he's looking around of where do I go next?
Yeah. It was genuinely weird. It was like the conversation. This period of time, they don't tell you how long it is since she was killed by the lawnmower to where we are now, because you see the news report, and obviously he's watched it quite a lot. So I'm giving, there's a bit in the news report where he's confronted by the newsreader, and he's like, oh, why can't you just stop hassling people and let them grieve and blah, and shuts the door in her face. So obviously it's been a while, but you can see in his face that he's pale, he's got red eyes, he's not sleeping.
That makeup job was fucking horrific, and I mean, like, I know it's going to get worse later on, but Jesus, if you want to show someone tired and haggard, there's means and ways of doing it. Making him look like the fucking undead isn't one of them. That was terrible.
It was something. He looked like he had some sort of skin disorder rather than.
It looked like he had rabies. Like, let's be.
And then what didn't help was his mum coming in, like
fucking large Marge.
She was just so like used to his shenanigans. You could just tell everything was okay, dear. It was very much of that kind of like.
It was the fact that the brain is in a tank, and she's like, "Oh, look at him! Look at the baby!" Like talking to it like it's a fucking dog.
And she keeps saying to him, "Oh, what about that lady at the bank? You know, you should move on. You should go on a date and all this." And like blatantly looking at this map of this person with her face on the top of it. And
No
she's picking up
concern
his washing.
whatsoever. But no concern whatsoever
No.
for the mass obsession that's going on in front of her.
No, but then she says to him, "What is the matter?" Or, you know, something along the lines of, "Come on, darling, tell me what the problem is. What's going on here? You need to let me know. I'm your mother. You can talk to me." So what's he do? He reels off this entire monologue about how devastation is and how depressed he is, and he literally tells her everything he's feeling in this couple of paragraphs, like proper, like in depth. You'd pay a fortune for a bloody therapist to pull that out of you, but it tells
Yeah.
his mum exactly as he is. And you know what? She didn't hear a word of it. She just looks at him and, "Do you want a sandwich?" At the end of it. And I was just like, my God, that's my mother.
She was more
That's my mum.
concerned about him getting his end away than actually what was going on in his head.
Yeah. She was more concerned whether he'd eaten anything or he was going to have a sleep that night than she actually was listening to what actually he needed. And if she had listened, she could have stopped
What was about to
this.
happen.
Yeah, you know, and it's like a foreshadowing. Like he was given a foreshadow monologue of how depraved he was feeling and like the lengths he was hoping to go to.
Yeah. So he's kind of like he's watching another. Is this where he watches the other news report about the crack cocaine causing deaths
Oh God. Yes, I think so.
to the New York prostitutes? It's called super crack.
Oh.
Called super crack.
We will come back to the super crack later, I'm sure.
Oh,
But you know.
yeah. But this is where because he knows he needs body parts
Hmm.
because he's got her head.
Well, he's got a head, her foot, and one other thing, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But this is where it gets on another level of what? Because he starts trepanning himself or trepanning, depending on how you pronounce it,
Mm-hmm.
with a drill. He gets a drill out and he starts trepanning into his own head, into pressure points, because he's got that brain on the side and he knows which ones, because they're all pre-drilled, as he informs
Mm-hmm.
you. And he goes around, he's like, right, this gives me my ideas if I stimulate this part of the brain. This does this. The way he's sticking a Bosch Black and Decker DeWalt into his noggin, mate, you are going Dharma. You are not going, you're not going to be having ideas. You are churning up brain matter with that drill bit, mate. You are going to be a dribbly mess if you keep that up.
You
I
are
was,
literally gonna lobotomize yourself.
I was like, what on earth is he doing? You know,
It
you're
took
like,
me it took me a while to be like, is he's he's putting the drill in his head?
yeah, because I used to be fascinated. Like in one of the very strange incarnations of Bleeding Marvelous, going back a very long time, we used to sponsor a lot of sideshow performers, and we got into the world of sideshow quite a lot. And then that led me down a rabbit hole where I started getting obsessed with like old medical procedures, and
Yeah.
I'd have someone someone did me a whole range of like cards that had like different medical procedures at the time on them, and trepanning was one of them, and it fascinated me. It fascinated me that they were drilling into people's brains because they thought if they stimulated something inside that brain, that it would then cause that person to not be hysterical or not be whatever the reason was for it. And I went down the rabbit hole with that one, and that only stopped in the 50s, 60s.
Yeah. Is it I
Yeah, that bit when he starts drilling into his head, I was like, "What on earth?"
I didn't know that's what it was. I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah,
The only thing that I ever found fascinating was Victorian medical books.
I've got a
They
few
are
downstairs.
there are some fucking gruesome shit in there.
Hmm.
Like
And
the
Danielle
one
has them framed and on the wall as well. So there's
there is one that really I always remember an image of a man with the arm here and it's cut open and he's showing all of it's how they show the nervous system and he's pulling it up and it's all the nerve honestly that's how like I can picture every single bit and I'm like oh fuck yeah, and like the amputee of legs where it's just like, let's get a saw. I do like stuff. I do like Victorian medical books. Um, but yeah, I didn't realize that was a thing. I didn't realize like I just, to be honest, I wasn't too sure what he was doing because nothing changed for me, for him, to him after he'd done something.
Well, he thought he was the first time he drilled in, he gave himself some ideas, and then the minute he stopped, he was like, "No, that's not going to work." So then he changed the spot he was drilling into, and then he got the idea of having to go out and buy some body parts. That's what he was like. I can buy them, and it occurred to him that all he had to do, because that's when the TV show was on about the
Yeah,
the prostitutes, sex workers, hookers, whatever.
Didn't he turn around at first and say, I know there's a place you can go and buy body parts from? Do you? Where?
He does, yeah. Quickie Mart? I don't know.
Parts are us?
7-Eleven? It's
Like, I'm sure Target ain't fucking selling them.
CVS? Walmart? I don't know.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And then yes, he sees the news report come up about the ladies of the night,
Yeah.
and the super drugs and how it's killing them all, and he gets the great idea of, well, if the super drug's killing them and has to take them, oh, I might be able to get away with this.
And
Nothing
then
like a fucking serial killer's way of thinking.
No, and then you see this odd scene play out where he's gone to his garage, which, by the way, is decked out to look exactly like Dr. Frankenstein's lab in, I want to say Bride over.
I think it's Bride because
It looks more Bride because there's more Tesla coils and more.
It was more to do with the lift.
The lift was ridiculous. That was Frankenweenie, that lift. That was just some absolute nonsense.
Where the fuck was it gone to, Dan?
The moon. I want to know where he got an extending pole that went up that high. I was just like,
how is that not snapping in half? It's got that weight on it. How is it not, like, what are you using?
It's the disturbing thing, right? So he opens up the freezer, and in his chest freezer he has this boiling, bubbling liquid, and you got no idea what it is, but it's obviously a kind of like it's like a pickle, basically. Nothing happens. You put something in it, and it keeps everything as it should be. Yeah. And he pulls out a really, really atrocious cast of Elizabeth Shelley's head, and every time, I don't know if you noticed this, every time he pulled it out of the water, the hair was dry.
No, I didn't.
And he was like, obviously they were shooting that in reverse.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but what's the point in that? Why can't have you not got? I think they use the same bit of footage every time for that one action that he did, because they only had one wig and couldn't get it dry in time to keep reshooting that one scene because they were on such a tight budget.
The head is atrocious. Just from like, how my brain works when I'm looking at, what is supposedly meant to be dead. I'm just going to put this out there. Your eyes wouldn't really look like that. Your mouth certainly wouldn't look like that either. He had her mouth open at that would happen. The mouth would be open, but if you've been, in medical hands, they do tend to sew it back up. But your mouth does hang.
But it's that bizarre meal that comes next.
It's fine to feed her wine, but he didn't offer her any pizza.
She can't chew.
She can't fucking swallow either.
Well, that's debatable, but
What was
that's
dessert?
What she said.
She can't fucking swallow. It's the third album in the release.
Michael Scott's favourites. That's what that one's going to be based on.
I love it. Yeah, so what was dessert, by the way? Because he literally takes a bite of that pizza and goes, do you want dessert?
Oh, I'm guessing it was something nefarious.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I just, to have an obsession to the extent of you don't even see the two interact while she's alive very much. So you don't know
actually
what
don't see
kind
them
of
at all.
they have about 10 seconds when she goes, "Oh, Daddy, Jeffrey made you this lawnmower," and it pans back over to Jeffrey, and he's like, "Oh, this day isn't about me; it's about you," and that's it. And I'm like, you
So
don't have a clue.
modest.
There's no clue about their dynamics. You don't know how much they're in love. You just know that they're engaged, and he tried to make her thinner, which I thought, hang on a minute, red flag. Where's the red flag guy? Where is he?
Oh my gosh, I know him.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I was just like, it's like, what? And then he, yeah, it starts to
Yeah.
get really extra weird now. He goes on a hunt.
Oh yeah, he goes to the city of Jersey and finds the ladies of the night.
Dressed as Dharma. The minute I took
Oh
one look
my
at him,
god,
I
yeah!
was like, oh, Jesus Christ, you look like Dharma. There was
Glasses,
something.
Mac.
There's something about just the general look, and I'm not saying they based it on him in one bit, but it just was very coincidental that the whole
Weird.
tweed, I don't know, it all just gave off that kind of
Oof, you just made me feel a bit
blonde
cold.
hair. I mean, it's of the time, the fashion and all that, I get it, but like
Yeah,
it just
that's
gave me
true.
that vibes. Like instantly my brain, and I wrote down a load of notes, and one of them said, "Why does he look like Dharma?"
Well, this is where you hear for the first time, and it is not from Elizabeth. Want a date? Looking for some action? Need some company? Is
Want to see my
what the
titties? Got no choice
I
because
didn't ask, but she
no,
showed.
she it's the old get them in, bait them in, see the
Yeah,
plant
just
the
hey,
goods.
here you go. She had no shame in it. Yeah, so Jeffrey acquires one of the ladies who is shouting, want a date, want some action, looking for some company. And he takes one look at her and goes, okay, yeah, think maybe I might need some more.
Hmm. I've got
And
money. I've got money.
oh yeah, I got money. Need some money, I got money, it's fine, that's fine. Money's fine.
He
Um
cashed in his Christmas club. That's
Callum,
what he says. He said, "I've
it's
got my Christmas club money," or
oh
something
my
along those
god.
lines. And I was just like, "Oh Christ, how old
Oh,
are you? Have you
why
got a
would you
nana
say that?
book?"
And then the lady of the night addresses another a lady of the night. So he's like, here's another one, and another one comes over. And by the way, these women are fucking beautiful. They are stunning. They are absolutely stunning. And then he goes, no, actually, I need more. And she's like, well, if you need more, you're gonna have to go through Zorro.
The cuprinoled Ron-sealed Zorro. The guy looks like he's been dipped in fence paint.
I couldn't tell at first who actually was Zorro, right? Because I wasn't paying attention to the necklace, clearly. But it was how many people were around him to start with who could have been a pimp.
What? Firstly, right, you're being taken through this dodgy ass club, which is fine.
Mm.
Clubs are dodgy. I've worked in a dodgy pub or two over the years.
I've
You
been
get
to
to
a
know
fair few.
people. It is just what it is. So he's being taken through. Then he's taken out the back, and out the back there are more people out the back than there is in the nightclub. Bear in
Yeah.
mind. And he finally gets taken into this toilet, and I'm like, what? Where do you piss in this toilet? Because all the stalls were taken up by everybody having a bit of a dalliance in there in one way or
Yeah,
another,
that
right?
sex scene was so funny.
It was ridiculous. And then you've got this vicar, priest guy, shouting at Zorro, but you don't know that Zorro. Then you've got some other guys huffing some drugs over the back. Then you've got a really ill-looking man in the corner smoking a cigarette, but not just smoking a cigarette, as in just lighting the end of it. He has turned this much of the cigarette black because he keeps running it up and down. I'm like, what is occurring? I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm
This
scared. Please,
this
somebody
is
get me. I
this is
don't
the
understand.
life. This is the life of super crack.
Crack.
Do you know what? It was like a nightmarish version of backstage at Wayne's World, and they go backstage. They go
You're not
backstage.
worthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the time when it doesn't go their way. I think it's in the second one because obviously in the first one they go backstage and everything's all great and blah, blah. And I think it's the second one where he meets Bob Odenkirk
Yeah.
and he's the fanboy. It's a fucked up version of that backstage.
It's wrong. It
It's
is
so
so
bad.
weird.
But we eventually meet Zorro. who is very clear to see it is him. It was just me because there was so much going on. He has a medallion thing with the Z in the middle.
Which looks like someone's cut it out of a Coke can and sprayed it gold.
They probably did.
It looked quality.
Yeah. Remember in the office when they did the medals with the milk thing?
Mm-hmm.
It was one of them.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. It was made out of
Definitely.
tinfoil.
Yep, definitely one of them. Yogurt lid.
Terry loves yogurt.
Wrong program.
I know, but that just popped into my brain. There's something about this guy that gives you like no pimp vibes whatsoever for me. The only thing about him was that he was big.
He
So,
looks like a Mexican cartel.
He does not look like what you. I don't know. Are you supposed to be scared of this guy? I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling. Is he a drug dealer? Is he a pimp? Is he both? Is he an entrepreneur? Is he just some dude that stands in toilets for no reason?
And just stands with his arms crossed, saying nothing, looking straight forward. He's definitely not Pepper Jack.
He's
from Always Sunny. Because that's who when I think of pimp, I think of Pepper Jack. And he did not give me them vibes at all. Maybe because I am absolutely stereotyping here, and I expect him to wear like the hat with the feather and the suit, and yeah, he looked like a Mexican drug lord.
I think he slightly might have been, hence why he was giving out super crack, super crack.
Wasn't just crack, super crack.
Yeah. All I hear is Rick James in my head. You know?
Oh no, I hear Whitney. Crack is whack, man.
No, all I keep hearing, super freak, you know, Rick James, and I'll get on with
freaky.
Yeah, all I can hear is super cracky.
No, Whitney, good old Whitney comes to my brain. Crack is whack, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? 90% of this episode is going to be me laughing. Sorry.
There was this thing, right? Because I'm right in saying there was something to do with the fact that they run out of money along the way, and they couldn't afford to hire proper SAG actresses for the sex worker scene.
Right. So these genuine sex workers.
Yeah, they were. They used genuine. Yeah. They went out and got genuine.
The ladies got paid.
Yep, because they went and joined SAG after the film to make sure they got paid for the film.
Oh, that's amazing.
So they all become members of SAG-AFTRA so that they can get their paychecks, because it was the first SAG-AFTRA film that Frank had done. So all these women and ladies of the night and went out and got their paychecks for being in this movie. And I think there was only 2 or 3 of them that weren't actual ladies of the night. They were actually cast
right
by actresses.
Oh, I'm so glad they got paid. And it wasn't exploitation, and it wasn't, what it could have been, because I'm sorry, but the ladies of the night, they get a really bad fucking rap. They really do. Yeah. And at the end of the day, some of them are not put in a position that they want to fucking be in there.
They all look very happy to be there, though, these ones.
It did, especially when it gets to the hotel room and Jeffrey wants to play a doctor.
Oh, what? Right, firstly, can I just ask, to anybody with any medical knowledge of any kind, please, could someone explain what the thing is on the head that they wear?
The circle thing. I was literally just about to ask the same question.
I'm guessing it reflects light. So,
but where are you reflecting it to?
This is the thing. I am presuming in olden day times they'd wear it with the light thing, and then they'd be near a window where the light could bounce onto it, and they could angle the light to where they're looking. So it's like a headlamp, but not. If I'm wrong, please tell me, because they look fucking ridiculous. And the more I look at them, it's like the biggest cliche I've ever seen of when someone says, "Oh, let's be a doctor." They wear one of those things, and I'm like,
I was literally going to ask the same question. What the fuck was on his head? But now you've said that, it kind of makes sense. Like the light thing.
I watch Greys. I watch New Amsterdam, which, by the way, I wish I hadn't started. I watch a lot.
You know you can stop.
I can't. Once
I know. I said that. I said that with the Greys. I was like, you do realize you can stop, and you were like, I can't do it, man.
No, I think I've just started maybe season 5 of New Amsterdam, and it's the final season so far. and it's the most atrocious piece of dog shit the last 2 seasons, and I've sat through it and I have depressed myself beyond belief for something, it's just got so bad. And the worst thing about it is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I love Tyler.
Yeah.
I've gone blank on his surname.
I
I
know
love
who you
Tyler.
mean.
And he plays Iggy Frome, this he's like a psychologist in this.
Mhm.
And I can't look at him now. Like I'm like,
Oh, don't
you
tell Lee.
he's a lovely person in this, but when you just think to yourself, but now I have this hanging over me.
Yeah, you see, you can do that. You can literally see something through to the end. I have started Sons of Anarchy, Yellowstone, Vikings, and anytime I get bored, I just fucking stop. And I don't go back.
It's the OCD thing with me that I need to finish it, because if I don't,
Dan, if I had that in me, I'd have watched a shitload of programs by now. But I really don't. I am what if I'm not in it, I'm not in it. It took us years to finish Peaky Blinders, and every time I tried, I had to go back to the beginning. It took me 4 attempts.
I have this thing, right? I will watch one episode, and if I don't like it in the first 10 minutes, it goes off. However, if I think it's all right, I'll give it till episode 2 before I finally make up my mind whether I'm going to go any further.
Mhm.
Peaky Blinders, I will tell you now, I've never seen it except for up until the scene where a Chinese woman blows some powder into a horse's face, and I went, I'm out. Bink, turned it off. I was like, I do not know what the hell I'm watching. It was in the streets of Manchester. Some Chinese woman comes out of a laundry and blows some
Birmingham.
stuff. Okay, Birmingham, blows some shit in a horse's face.
Yeah,
And I was
she's
like,
wishing them luck.
I d-
These are all Romanian gypsies whose trade is horses and horse racing, and they are very superstitious. And all she was doing was wish you luck.
it was a
To wish
horse.
no luck.
It was a horse. I was like, I don't understand what this is about now. So I am not in with this. I'm not. It does nothing for me. Tommy Shelby, it's just Cillian Murphy. It's some skinny guy that's walking around thinking he's Billy Big Bollocks, and it's just I'm not into it. So it's one of those things I probably will eventually go back and watch, but twice I've got to that point in that first episode, and I have had to turn it off twice.
There's one series where the Italian mafia get involved, and it's Adrian Brody, and holy shit, that is a fucking intense and amazing payoff at the end of that that is probably one of my favorite series. I stuck with it. Even fucking Tom Hardy didn't mind Tom Hardy. Not saying something because I can't stand the bloke. But even Tom Hardy played a hell of a part. It had its ups and its downs, but I managed to persevere.
Was
Not just
Tom Hardy good? Did he play Ben just as well?
he didn't actually.
No.
He just played Tom Hardy. Like and but it was Tom Hardy you could understand, and that's a bonus because that's been my problem is not being able to. Even Legend, he's playing a Cockney, and it's still fucking hard to understand him at
Ain't two
times.
Cockney.
Not just one, exactly. Not just one, two. Yeah, so Jeffrey's having a party with the ladies playing doctor.
Oh.
Kind of goes a bit tits up. Literally. Literally.
That's not
Lots,
a party I ever want to go to, put it that way.
lots of titties are flying about all over the place, and the super crack comes out.
Well, he
It's
got to pay her because she was getting really impatient because he wouldn't choose a woman.
mhm.
He wouldn't choose which ones he wanted to take back with him because he was too busy measuring their legs, their arms, their chests. And we know why it was, but for them, that must have been really peculiar. But, whatever floats anyone's boat, and he's paying for the night. So at the end of the day, none of them should have really cared. But he gave them an hour or two, Zorro.
What
And
did he give them though? Because that wasn't super crack they had, was it?
it was his own invention.
That's it. That's it. Because he said you shouldn't smoke that. Don't smoke it. Like he really was laying it on thick, like not to smoke it, but in a non-alertive way.
Yeah, because he took I think the idea was he was going to drug them all because he took the
What a gentleman.
he took the pills originally off Zorro, didn't he?
Yes.
Paid him for a load. And then he did the test on the guinea pig, and the guinea pig exploded.
Yes, it did.
And no guinea pig was harmed. I want to make
No.
very sure that was not a real guinea pig, but it was the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. So he knew what the outcome would be if they ingested the smoke. So it wouldn't be far-fetched for me to believe that he knew that that was going to happen. However, I feel like when they were getting antsy and she wanted the money, he gave her the doctor bag and it had the crack in it, because she whops out this baggie that's about the size of my head, like this.
Look what I got, ladies.
It looked like it was full of like ice cubes, for want of a better word.
To be honest, I thought, because he kept going, no, no, no. I thought it was a fucking eye or something, or like a hand, or like a body part. Like I couldn't wrap my head because her reaction was fucking ridiculous.
Oh, if you want to see excited on a scale of 1 to 10, she was 500.
Yeah.
She was screaming. And I mean, like, that's not addict behavior. That's a whole nother level of hysteria that this woman just snapped into when she saw this amount of drugs.
She went on like me when I realized there's a bag of party rings in the cupboard.
Oh, I love party rings.
They're my favorite biscuit.
I love something about the way you should eat a party ring as well.
My finger.
I have a thing with party rings. You have to turn them upside down so the icing's on your tongue, and you let the icing eat, like it's weird. And
it sounds that I don't do it because I literally do finger and but
you turn it around and you let the icing bubble on your tongue until it melts off. Try it. It's a whole new world.
My best friend bought me several packets for Christmas.
Yeah,
because it's honestly my favorite biscuit.
But yeah, it's so strange. The whole reaction, and they're all smoking it. He's going, "Don't smoke it," and then it's like someone put gunpowder in them.
It makes atomically, it doesn't make any sense as to how they started to blow up. Like, it's literally all they're doing is inhaling smoke. So if anything, it should be kind of like they're being choked and combustions happening because, but it's not. They just blow up.
Yeah, explode. No blood, mind. There's no blood anywhere.
No. The bloodless people, by the way.
Because he got a lot of shit for that, Frank. A lot of people
Did he?
Yeah, a lot of people said to him, there was not enough blood and gore in this movie, and that's where he keeps going back to the fact it wasn't a horror film.
Oh, mate, it's not fucking art. I'm telling you that now. Like, it's not. It really isn't.
The problem is he was trying to compare himself to, like I said, other exploitation movies of the time, which was like Maniac, and some of those were so gritty and so, like, when I say gritty, I don't just mean like, I mean they are like dark art masterpieces at the time. They were things that they told a real tale of what was going on at the time, but with far-fetched kind of ideas. This was not anything that was happening in 1990. I was 10. I don't remember anybody reanimating the corpse of their ex-dead girlfriend and let them walk around Times Square. I don't.
No, me neither. Me neither. But this is where they start exploding and body parts start become available, and apparently a lot of tits. Because this is where we get the bucket full. Literally, we get a bucket, and I'm not joking, bucket full of titties.
Yep.
All different shapes and sizes. Some marvelous titties in their mind.
Cardboard box full of heads. A barrel full of legs. I want to know how he snuck all
and
of
a
this out.
partridge in a pear tree.
I want to know how he got this all out of this room. Bear in mind,
in the place that he lives, it probably just fucking walked out. Like, I get you. It is definitely movie magic, that question, because there's no fucking way he is walking with a barrel full of tits through Jersey and nobody is asking, why you go running through Jersey with barrel? What's this about?
Because he gets it all back to his little laboratory, doesn't he? And he's going through and he's trying to match up what he likes the best. Which leg's the best, which foot's the best. And the bit with the foot where he breaks it and he goes, ugh, bunions. Grabs a file and starts filing down the foot. I was like, ugh.
Get a new foot. Just, you've got fucking plenty to pick from. Just get a new foot.
It went from being a really pretty foot in a shoe to being the most gnarled up toe foot thing you've ever seen. And I was like,
fucking gnarly toes.
what on earth is that? Fucking Frodo Baggins' foot. You don't give that back. Just
No, hand that. You pick another one. You've got choices here.
So he does this thing. So he gets out everything that he wants to make his woman. But with all the spare parts, he puts them all into this chest freezer that I was talking about earlier, that's
Yeah.
full of this liquid stuff. And he just
Yeah.
puts all the legs in, all the boobs in,
All the titties are in
all
there.
the heads, everything just gets amalgamated in this thing. And he just shuts the chest freezer and turns his attention to his telescopic lightning rod. God, that sounds really, really phallic, doesn't it?
Telescopic lightning rod. If I write a dirty book, that's what I'm going with.
That's the difficult fourth album.
Yes, that's where that's where it starts getting a bit dark and gothy and grungy. Like we're going through a bad patch right here.
Creative differences. Oh, it was at this time they knew they'd fucked up. Oh
I really
God.
need to adjust my glasses. I've laughed that much. They're like lodged into my ears. Like, hang on. Ow, 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 ow. Right. Sorry. Where are we? Oh yeah.
Yeah, telescopic lightning rod.
Telescopic
Ow.
lightning rod.
I mean, that was it. Frankenweenie, right? There's a scene in Frankenweenie, if any of you know, and we're not talking, it can be either version, the original one that Tim Burton did, which was the live action, or the stop-go animation one.
Yeah.
But there is a section in it, which this reminded me of, where the roof kind of opens and it goes out of the roof. You know, there's this whole weird thing, and like you say, it goes to the fucking moon, and then it gets shot down the Tesla coil. But the thing that got me as well, the size of that spark plug he picked up. Did you see it? It was a car spark plug, right? Which is normally about this big. He picked it up. It was like this big, and he puts it in the machine. And I was like,
"Fuck, are you getting that from?
Who makes them that big?"
Acne.
That's what she said.
I was thinking of like Acne, like the Looney Tunes.
Yeah, that's very much of what it felt like. But yeah, he then doses over the electric, and she comes down, and she sort of comes around, but she knocks him out, doesn't she?
Yeah, she knocks him out and she literally blitzes out of the room. And this is where you get to see the great Elizabeth taking New Jersey by storm. White face. Oh, good God, that makeup job. Yeah. So she's obviously an amalgamation of all different body parts. So, she would have different coloured skin tone and everything. But because it's her head that he has had kept for such a long time, it's this white face that magically changes back to normal colour when she's indoors. But when she's outdoors, it's white. And she's got purple hair. Why has she got purple hair?
Lightning.
Right. Was that, yeah? If you want to be able to get Dan's hair, lightning.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But yeah, she has purple hair and she has an amazing outfit on and she has these amazing Frankenstein boots. I can only describe them as Frankenstein boots to people and they would know what I mean. But they're my creepers actually is what they are. Just not as big as a platform because I'm already tall.
But she walks really well. I think she does a really good job at like pulling off the cheesy walk.
It's the fact that she still looks like she's got electricity running through her. So if you know the front cover of this movie, you know what she looks like. And it's I can't do it. I'm having an issue with wisdom teeth at the moment, so I can't actually physically pull my mouth over. But yeah, that's it. Sorry, audio listeners, you're not gonna be able to see it, but it's literally her jaw hanging on the other side of her face, and she does this every so often. And it's like she gets a jolt, and she's constantly repeating everything that the lady of the night, who you originally meet, says
Because
over.
part of her is her now.
Yes, over and over again. So want a date? Looking for some action? Need some company?
And she's literally shouting at a 12-year-old kid on the tube. I want to know how she got to the tube station from there, because blimey, she must have walked far. And
She
then
did
she makes
well.
her way back to the club, doesn't she?
Yeah. Because it's, party in the club. And this is where Jeffrey starts running through Jersey looking for Elizabeth and meets the preacher. This part, absolutely. And I mean, I nearly fell off my chair at this bit. It was so funny.
The end is nigh.
The end is something. He's sitting there preaching, and he's essentially talking about Elizabeth coming back and and then Jeffrey runs up to him, and he goes, "Where did she go? She's got purple hair." And he just goes, "Over there."
I mean, it's not like she was hard to spot. Let's be honest.
It's the fact that it's just the very dramatic over there. Okay.
He was not going to waste his 2 minutes of fame, was he?
Oh, he was working for that fucking paycheck.
Did you notice though, and I can't remember where it is in this film, but that I think it was just before he reanimates her, the weather report that he watches. Did you notice that the weatherman looked like Lon Chaney in
Uh,
Phantom?
Oh, Phantom, I thought you were going to say, no, I didn't actually. There's only one bit I paid attention to properly, and because it really caught my eye. He's watching a television show with a late night talk show host who's talking horribly to a guest, and it's downright like horrible. And it really reminded us of Morton Downey Jr. Morton Downey Jr. was a cable talk show host, and so basically he could get away with whatever, chain smoking on telly, and he was fucking vile. And he's famous for making one of his guests, and I think she might have been a lady of the night. And I'm really sorry if I'm wrong, because like no disrespect to this woman whatsoever, she handled herself, but at what cost? Like he was in her face. He was almost shoving her. He was almost pushing her. All because they just didn't agree on something. It was disgusting. He's dead, but
Same.
piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Piece of shit. The only thing he ever did that I've looked at, and if I'm wrong about Morton Downey Jr., you can tell us. I am really asked, because he is dead and has been for a very long time. But he once his brother was gay and had AIDS, and he thought if he mentioned him on his show that people would not like him and stop watching his show. And this was like at a time when they needed the support, they needed the voices, and he eventually swallowed his pride and went, "Oh, fuck it, I don't care. Like, this is my brother. He's gay. He's got AIDS. I don't give a shit." And it kind of worked in his favor. But that was the only nicest redeeming part I could find. It's the way it was on. It was on like the Watch Mojo lists of like worst late night talk show host. He comes on there all the time. And it's for that very moment. You should see her though. She proper like her shoulders go back. She like really. She doesn't say a goddamn word. She takes everything, but she still manages to leave with her head held high. It's crazy. What a dick. Anyways, that was the only thing that I noticed was because of that.
She's then ambling her way through Times Square or somewhere like that. I can't quite work out where she is. She's somewhere.
Yeah.
And then she's shouting at everybody the same 3 words over and over again. And she just stumbles upon this strange little fella, doesn't she?
This is a moment, by the way, people.
Oh, it's that's
everything
stuck in the memory.
Yeah, everything that she said. Want a date? Yeah, I do. Looking for some action? Of course I am. Need some company? Yeah. And they end up going off to a motel room and have one of the most It's actually quite funny, the scene, to be fair, because the sex scene itself is ridiculous, because she's literally dry humping him. That's about as much as what's happening. And then the smoke happens, because why not? She
I
just
still don't know why, but yeah.
No, but this smoke just comes out of her, and he starts inhaling it, and as he is supposedly going to climax, he explodes. But what you get is his head is still intact, And he just looks at her and goes, "That was fantastic."
And all you see is the little lightning, like electricity pumping through, and I was just like,
Yeah. Why? How? You're not attached to anything. Clearly, that's not how electricity works. Unless you're Thor.
all I'm
Are
going to
you?
say is, and this is thanks to Elvira.
Do it.
Oh, I'm going to get it wrong now, though, aren't I? Because I've picked it up too much. How's your head?
Haven't had any complaints.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm not a fucking amateur.
But yeah, it's just that thing. It was just like it seemed like a sex joke.
Yeah, it was weird. I feel like the tagline for our episode is "It was weird," because that's all we've said all the way through this. But I'm not exaggerating. This scene is totally and utterly crazy because his head just blows off and it's like floating, and then it kind of like turns to the camera and he just goes, "That was fantastic."
And then
Done.
it cuts
End
to
scene.
Jeffrey getting her back to the house then, doesn't it? It literally
Yeah,
cuts that quickly.
yeah. He gets her back. Zorro actually follows her because he wants to know
That's
where his
it.
girls have gone.
Yeah,
Like
that's it.
Zorro's like, "Where's my girls at? Where's my drugs at? Where's my
Yeah.
super crack?
I'm
Where
poor
is my
now.
stuff?
Where's all my ladies?
Where's all?" I was going to say it as well. Where? I'm not. I'm not going to go down that road. Yeah. Where's my women at?
Mm.
And Jeffrey's like, "Here. They're all here," kind of thing. And it starts to get a bit messy. Actually, before Zorro walks in, him and so Elizabeth is acting the way that she has been until he straps her down and runs more electricity through her to where she then becomes Elizabeth,
Yeah.
the one who we met at the beginning.
Yeah.
And she's
Slightly
very,
more intelligent, I feel, as well.
yeah, I feel the electricity did her good. Yeah, she came out on top on that one. She was very proud of her man, of
Hmm.
what he did. Look at what he's accomplished. This is what what he was aiming for until she sees herself.
Yes. Because at this point he'd put staples in her neck and then gave her extra bolts like the traditional
Yeah.
monster. So
Uh-huh.
it wasn't just a matter of having a sewed up throat like it was at the beginning. This he'd
No,
gone to town to keep her head on this time.
exactly. She's yeah, and in place. So she ends up booting off, but that's when Zorro comes in, and I think that's where she kind of takes it out on him. Am I wrong?
Something happened. There's a kerfuffle somewhere along the line, and they knock over the fridge, the chest freezer thing.
Right, and then all this stuff starts coming out of it. Now this reminded me of Basket Case.
You could see 100% whoever it was. I didn't look into it, but if it was the same special effects guy that did
Hmm.
Basket Case, because I know they just finished Basket Case 2 when they
Yeah.
went into the filming for this. So unless these were all extra bits from that, or they were making it at the same time, there was a torso that was upside down that had boobs for legs and a mouth where the vagina
Oh.
should be. And then there was, and then there was this basket case looking thing with like I think it was bum cheeks with a face. I don't know. You really
Bum
didn't get
face.
long to sort of take it in.
No, there was so much going on. And apparently, according to my notes, Zorro was just overwhelmed by these these
One of them's
monsters.
trying to bite his ankles. I think it was the bum cheeks one with the teeth that were trying to bite his ankles at one point, and I was like,
I've just read back my notes, which overwhelm Zorro and drag him away into their storage cooler to his
"Yep,
presumed death. Oh, right, so the people took his drugs too.
yep,
It actually says along with his drugs.
yep." There's a scene just at the end. You see the chest freezer door
And
slightly flip open, and the drugs get dragged back in by a hand.
that's right. But what we missed before all that happens, before Zorro dies in with the monstrous I don't know what to call them.
Amalgamations.
Yeah, let's go with that. He actually cuts Jeffrey's head off.
Yes.
He actually cut Jeffrey and Elizabeth are arguing because Elizabeth has found out what he has done to her, and he's explaining, "I can only do it to women, and this is all I could do, and there wasn't much of you to deal with, like you're not a full person." And then whoosh, his head gets taken off. And then that's what happens to Zorro. And Elizabeth, who, yes, the electricity has made her more intelligent than she could ever possibly imagine, she puts Jeffrey back together.
He does. Yes.
But Jeffrey can only bring women back. Can't bring men. That was such a big fucking, like, he really should have done his homework, because maybe he wouldn't have had a woman's body. Oh my God, the actual prosthetics on that body when it's revealed is horrific. We do not look like that.
He was pinned to that board for 5 hours whilst they filmed those scenes. He had to pee in a cup.
Oh, and bless his heart. Like, the to me, it looks like, because there's a whiteboard behind him, so all I can imagine is just it's just his head, but
Yeah.
it can't be, because this is definitely something. It's someone's behind it.
There's
Like
women's arms. There's a woman who's moving her arms. You know, like you played that game when you were a kid where someone else's arms are under your arms.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like, because they were very feminine fingers. They were not Jeffrey's hands at
Oh
all.
yeah, no.
And when he was talking, and you could see that they were painted red fingernails, and he was waving them around like this, but they were like here. They were stuck really kind of hard
Like T-Rexy arms.
Yeah, to the breast. So they were only working from like the elbow up, except for one of them you couldn't see, but
Yeah.
you knew it was angled down, and the other one's waving around like a mad person. And then when they do the pan out shot, and you see that he's got a female body, and he's got pretty female parts, and he's got this, like, he's got
his hands like,
he's like covering his modesty, and you're like, mate, it's too late for that. We know what's going on there.
yeah. It's
I think
yeah.
he even says something like, it's not, he doesn't use the word penis. I've forgotten what the word is he uses,
Johnson.
but that's it. Where's my Johnson? It's
Wouldn't
like,
you like to know?
it's not
Because she's
there
like,
now, mate.
she was like, I'm sorry, Jeffrey, but your papers only produce women. They don't bring men back.
Yeah.
So here you are, titties and all.
And then
No,
it
fabulous.
ends.
And it literally ends. That's it. That is the end. There's no explanation. It's just Jeffrey in a load of like, oh, it's happened. End.
Yep. Because we love those ends in the late 80s, early 90s movies where they
yeah.
just cut down
End.
like Dolly Dearest. End.
The film is finished.
Yeah.
Frankenhooker, Elizabeth, doesn't actually show up until 56 minutes into the movie. The movie is literally an hour and a bit long.
Yeah, it's not very long at all.
It's
Because
not a long
I'm
movie.
thinking about an hour and a half, hour and 45 is average for a movie. And then you forget that like late 80s, early 90s, some of them were an hour and 10, an hour and 15. Because even last week's original 1922 Nosferatu ran for an hour and 22 minutes, or an hour and 32 minutes.
Yeah, it was
like that. The original. So we're talking about a 1922 movie. This one, I think he just ran out of money, because I know that they had a lot of issues on set.
Yeah.
A lot of people stole the body parts prior to the film. Honestly, prior to that bit where they were filming, putting Frankenhooker together.
Yeah.
Stole a lot of the props. Now, the guys had all these realistic legs made where they bent when he picked them up, and like they moved, and the boobs were a lot better because they were more like boobish. You know, they had a bit of go in them. And they had to do amend with a load of shit that they made last moment because they didn't have the budget for it. There was also a section where he went and asked them for some more money. You know, the scene where they're all exploding. He went and asked the production for more money for that scene, because obviously they needed to film it as it's a SAG film.
Yeah.
I don't know if people understand what SAG films are. SAG are union films.
Yes.
So the Screen Actors Guild is a union. So if it's a union job, everybody on that set has to be a member of the union and paid and looked after, which rightly so. But it also means that everything is highly regulated, and it's not like an indie movie where you can go off.
Oh no, you can't get away with some things that happened in that period of time.
So there's two budgets I found. Now I'm not sure which one it was, but the average, it goes between 1.2 million to 2.5 million, the budget. So it's it's somewhere in the middle.
That's something, yeah.
For 1990, yeah, it is something. Don't know what they spent the money on, mind, but it was there. Probably the lab and titties, yeah.
Titties.
And then they they'd run out of money. Basically, production said, nope, we've got no money for the exploding scene. So he said, right, okay, I'll think of something else. So he then went and whispered to his mate. His mate then got a load of explosives. And what you see is the product of a black market Frank going off on his own, doing some jiggery pokery with some dodgy explosives that were not sanctioned by SAG or the production, because he was so determined to have that scene. He was like, this film will not work without that scene. I need that scene for you to understand how this plays out. And he was so adamant, and the production were like, not on your Nelly, mate. So he went out and he did. He still made it, and by all intents and purposes, it stayed in the film because obviously it was
we've seen it.
It's pivotal. You have to have it in there. So he just made, he went out of his way to do it, and they had a lot of issues getting this rated to even get it out. It was rated U for unwatchable.
I mean, I can understand that. Even though it is.
That's by the board, the official American film board.
Oh, that's terrible, because it is watchable. It's just
they did it. Yeah, well, yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, they debated and they did a lot of I can't think of the word I'm looking for. They did a lot of meetings where they were trying to find middle ground to what they thought.
Right, like a negotiation kind of thing.
That's the word. Yeah, I don't know why I've gone blank, but I did. To try and
You're
find.
Lucky you got it all from me.
To try and find something that they, everybody agreed on, and in the end they went for a R rating.
Yeah.
He said he wanted an X, and they were like, well, you can have an X, but it doesn't get the viewings that you would want it to have. So he just went with X because he thought it would bring more people in, because it was X's are movies that you can only show at certain points, certain times, especially back then.
Kind of gives him a bit more control as well. A little bit, if it's only been shown.
Yeah, because he used to do a lot of double features with John Waters movies.
Of course he did.
And what was one of them? Our Paul's wife's favourite, who she dressed up.
Pink Flamingos.
Yeah, the lovely Nicole, may I say, did a cracking Divine. That was absolutely insanely amazing. So
I was totally blown away. She knows my feelings on John Waters and Divine. So the minute I lost my mind over it, she looked absolutely fucking brilliant. But that's just Nick. Nick's just, she's so beautiful, and jealous.
I've never seen anyone that wasn't
pull it off that
queen.
good.
I don't mean that horribly, but it's true. No. I've never seen a female actually do it. So I was amazed because she did it so well. But yeah, I digress. The box office, because of the X-rated choice, only ended up taking, I think it was 500,000 in the box office. So the movie was 1.2 to 2.5. So at the worst end, the best end, it took a loss of over $1 million. And this was his very first SAG movie. So he was then on the board as being a guy that you couldn't put money into because of the liberties and the fact that he still has that indie mentality, the exploitation angle.
He's never good. He would never lose it, and you can see that it's evident throughout all of his films. Some people are just some filmmakers sometimes need to, and I'm not saying this in an awful way, but kind of like stay in their lane. Like, he didn't need to go out and do a union film because, or a SAG film, because he's. I know that we've laughed all the way through this, but it's not that terrible. It's not really. It is a movie of its time, and he was very good at doing these movies.
All of his movies are insane,
and you can tell they're all passion projects. You can tell, there's, for all we might be laughing and saying, the terrible makeup jobs, it's definitely a passion project. It's like it's running right through it.
Yeah, but you can see that this would be his first money film, because where is the money? Where was the money spent?
I don't know.
That's the thing, and I'll be curious to ever find that out. I mean, if it was all on the set for the
Or the Frankenstein set like that, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the only place I can think of that they spent the money, because really it's just a woman walking around outside, or a bunch of women touting outside,
Mm-hmm.
him driving a car, or him drawing on a bit of paper, or watching a video. There's not really much.
Or a lawnmower.
There's not really much like scenery
Yeah.
wise, special effects obviously, with the basket case baby torso amalgamation things.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot going on in there. Like
that's
I could,
something.
yeah, I could. If you said it was the other way around, I could understand.
Mm.
Like that's where that film had money. This one didn't, because Basket Case it's got some brilliant prosthetics and is it animatronic? Did we figure that? It was a long time ago we did that episode now.
I want to say it was puppetry, but
It was
and
puppetry.
it was stop go animation.
That's right, yeah.
So
So hold on. I'm I'm fascinated by movies of this genre, of this time. So I'm gonna apologize in advance. You'll be getting more. Actually, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not fucking
no,
sorry at all. I'm
never
really not sorry at all.
apologize.
Nah, I am, like I said, I think I've had like this awakening since The Blob and Night of the Living Dead. Like, I thoroughly enjoy these style of movies. I love them. I love this period in horror. It's a period I've never really kind of like given the time of day before, because my horror was so serious. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it is we can find, little gems. I know we've got a couple of lined up, but
There's something about movies that don't take themselves too seriously that just work.
yeah.
I think there's so many people out there, directors, and I will use Robert Eggers as an example here. His lane, and that's what he's good at. And people like Ari Aster, they have lanes where
Yeah.
their particular brand is so specific and so story
Mm.
driven and so serious and heavy. It works for their stories. And I'm not saying they should turn it into a comedy by any stretch of the imaginations, but
But if they
it's
did,
nice. It's nice to have something that is so ridiculous that doesn't
mhm.
take itself seriously, that's prepared to be like the butt of jokes, or the, do you know what I mean? It's just
I
so
do.
far-fetched.
No, I absolutely do. And it. I've just thought there, like, how did I not look more into this decade of horror? When Sleepaway Camp is one of my favorite, but Sleepaway Camp I put in the slasher genre, and that's where it kind of like stays. So I don't put it amongst this, but it really is like, obviously it is because it was from 1983. It's this marvelous decade in horror where risks were taken, and it's not all generic, and there were different aspects of it, because we know what horror turns into. We know what happens. It becomes the same thing
Mm-hmm.
over and over
It turns
again.
into Blumhouse. Um,
Oh,
Wolfman comes out on Friday, but by the time you guys see this, it will be Monday, or hear this. It will be later on next week. I do not know if I want to go see this,
I'm
because
not.
yes, every bone in my body screams no.
No,
But then there's that little bit of me that thinks, look,
maybe.
grow the fuck up and just go and watch it. But I don't want to give Blumhouse my money, because
No,
I don't want to say I'm okay with this, because I'm
I
not.
I understand. I can't do it to all, Larry. But I think we're part of the same Universal Monsters group on Facebook,
Yeah.
and there was a very spoiler-free review, and they said like they had exactly the same like feelings as what we do. Obviously, it's Blumhouse, it's Wolfman, like it's a it's a Universal Monsters page, so obviously it's very close to their heart, and they were like, no, I'm gonna put all this, out of my head, and I'm going to go in with a clear mind. And they even said they cannot come out and say anything positive about it. So they're going to leave it at that.
So yeah, I might wait for streaming online when it is free and I do not have to pay £25 for the pleasure of downloading it from Amazon. I will just wait till Amazon let it be free.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. This is going to sound so snobbish of me. Unless it's Guillermo del Toro's name on it, I am fucking interested.
And that's
Hey,
what
does that
makes
sound
it nice
really
on it.
bad? Oh, I know.
No and yes. You have to have a director that understands the source material to the point of where the fandom are you're doing this. You have to be someone who has grown up a fan to understand. Like Robert Eggers for Nosferatu, he was a fanboy of this film to the extent of where he wrote screenplays. He was dressed up. He watched this film when he was 8. It's always been the thing he wanted to do. This is his.
Yeah, this is his. It's
It's
his.
opus.
That's it. Magnum. You say it better than I do. I
It's
can't
magnum
say it.
opus. Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, you want a director and a bunch of people at the tippy top that know how much you've got to do fan service to things. For me, I don't feel like Jason Blum gives a fuck. He's just there for this. He wants the money. He wants this same old tired rehash of a storyline. You know, it's something that happens, you get introduced to the character, something bad happens to the character, but it always works out in their favor because they'll always be the final person at the end. But there'll always be a twisty twist in the middle, and we're all supposed to like the character, but you end up hating the character because you're just like, oh, here we go again. And that's truly how I feel about the majority of Blumhouse movies.
It's
Not
true.
saying there's some gems in there, because there's the odd one that you watch and you think, okay, that wasn't too bad, like Black Phone. That wasn't too bad. It was still same. When you break it down, you look at Blumhouse movies, they all have an incredibly similar just the way that they break them down in a horror
I get what
movie.
you mean. You know my feelings on I can't even remember what the film's called now. The birthday one.
Death Day, Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day, that's it. I really like that
Tree.
film. Hello. I really like that film. Because it's an easy watch, but it's taken us some time, but I have gotten there with what you mean with Blumhouse. And the minute I saw their name attached to it, I was like, no, thank you. I'm good. I can wait. I'd rather watch Frank Gruffalo, the
The werewolves one.
the werewolves one. I'd rather watch that than
with the
watch
lovely Ian White in it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is something that's not going to tarnish Larry. He just sorry, my cat's having a fight. He sits on my desk. He just stares at us all day. I actually just for out of if anyone's interested, I got this from Bleeding Marvelous.
You did. We got some Larrys.
Yep, I got Larry from Bleeding Marvelous. I picked Larry over Creature. That's a true story. There was Creature. There was Larry. I was like, I'll have Larry, thank you. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, that's right. Before we go, and before we announce next week's episode, I think we should, given that as of recording and as of a few hours ago, it was announced that the world lost David Lynch.
Yep, as I said in that post, that was one damn fine cup of coffee.
Very, very sad.
As you can see up there, if people can see, unlike what Chris put a picture of My Little Pony up there when he superimposed it on my pictures, that is actually a Twin Peaks plaque I have on my wall. So
he's a brave boy, mind.
Oh, well, it's only him projecting his broniness, as I told him. You know, at the end of the day, if he's into if he's a brony and he's into My Little Pony, that's fine. But that's a weird way to come out with it. But yeah, David Lynch, he's a master of storytelling in a way that is so unexpected. He makes no sense in the way he directs things. His stories are never linear.
No.
And he's the king of tangents when you watch any of his stuff.
We know that. We love a tangent. I love Dune. Obviously, I'm a huge Dune fan, and I love his version of Dune. I love Kyle MacLachlan, so I like him because he's a Kyle MacLachlan, and him have worked together on a lot of things. Only thing I've never watched is Twin Peaks, and that's because when I started watching it, my husband come in and spoiled it. I took a huff and I never watched it again.
It's a difficult watch.
I was enjoying it.
That's the thing. There's so many things that happen, so little. He was very clever with how he spliced in one frames
Yeah.
of something completely different into like watching something. He got the Red Room was a genius thing. The movie was the movie helped a lot of people understand the TV show if they weren't
Yeah.
deeply
Yeah.
into it. But then the recent TV show that came out was hard getting into, but it had Matt Lillard in it. And it was
Mm.
the first thing I'd seen him in a long time since Scooby-Doo, I think. You know, it like and there was a one episode in the new season series that came out that was a standalone movie. It was shot in black and white, and it was just an insane episode, about an hour long, and I highly recommend. I can't even off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you what it was called, but it has nothing to do with Twin Peaks, nothing to do with the series whatsoever. It is just implanted in the middle of the series.
I bet Jake could tell you because this surprised. I mean, I don't know why this surprised us because, like, I didn't think this was kind of Jake's thing, but he loves Twin Peaks. He watched it recently and he did ask us if I'd seen something to do with it, and I was like, no, because I took a massive huff and I've never went back to it. So yes, the world lost David Lynch today. Very sad. I think he was 76 years old.
78. He was somewhere in that ballpark, yeah.
I mean, he lived a life.
He
And
most certainly did.
oh, rest easy, Mr. Lynch. Thank you, thank you. Like I said in my post, thanks for the thrills. I didn't know what else to say. And it's just gone really fucking cold in this room.
Well, I've
As I
got
said
one
that.
thing left to do,
Yeah.
and then we can wrap it up. As
Mhm.
last week, I set myself the most ridiculous challenge of
That's
tying every
right.
film back to either Chris Columbus or Adventures in Babysitting. Because Chris Columbus, his very first film that he ever directed was Adventures in Babysitting.
Mhm.
I have a tedious link for you. Are you ready? Because this is going to be a new feature if I can pull it off.
I am ready. Let's do this.
It's called Dan's Tedious Link. I haven't stolen that from anywhere.
Nope.
Frankenhooker was filmed in Tribeca.
Right.
Tribeca is where Hook and Ladder, Company 8, aka the Ghostbusters Firehouse is.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd, aka Ray Stantz,
Mm-hmm.
in Christmas with the Cranks.
Uh-huh.
Christmas with the Cranks was written by Chris Columbus. I did it! I did it! I did!
Well, I fucking never.
So that's how you tie Frankenhooker to Chris
Columbus. Oh my god, that's blew my mind.
I did it.
You really did, don't you? Did it.
I'm taking this seriously. I set myself.
I can tell. I can tell. And you know when when she'll stop is when she doesn't mention it ever again.
I will never mention like, oh, I haven't got it this week. It'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's never been a feature.
Sorry.
I've never. Are you okay?
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. All right, okay. Each week, I mean, I know we said this last week, but each week you got to do it. You've done it now. You've got to do it.
Next week's is going to be one to.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting one.
Next week we're going back to double features.
Thumbs
up. 2. And we're going with one that I feel like we could have done last year, but I'm kind of glad we've kept off because I feel this is going to be a jam-packed episode because we are doing The Crazies. Original remake.
Oliphant. Timothy Oliphant.
Never seen either of them. However, owned each of them. Don't know.
It's going to be a ride because the first one I've seen maybe once, and the second one I watched the hell out of when it came out because I just really liked it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I've really liked it.
I just really liked it at the time. You know, you have a moment where you watch something and you go, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you upheld it
vampires.
It wasn't like you upheld it as a masterpiece of cinema. It's just you watch something and you go, yeah, I quite like that.
I had a few films like that.
Yeah, I really liked it.
John Carpenter's Vampires was one. Stigmata was another one.
Yeah, I went through a phase with that one as well.
Yeah, so next week is the Crazies. If you are interested in watching Frankenhooker, it's actually on YouTube for absolutely nothing.
And it's
No
also
pennies.
on Amazon Prime for free as well.
No pennies necessary. So watch it. I beg yous. Just to witness the craziness and the wildness that is, and the titties that is this movie.
Because the film is actually shorter than this podcast, so
We actually thought we were going to do a short one tonight. That turned out to be
wrong.
The last time we said that was The Bride of Frankenstein. We were like, oh, we don't have enough information to make this go. Maybe we just hold our hands and it's a short episode. It was a long one, just like this one. Right. So we are on. No, let's start that again because our episodes drop every Monday on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel. They also will now be dropping on audio every Monday night. So the audio, I know.
Ooh.
So the audio and the video will be out on the same day.
Organization, that's what we like.
Yeah, trying to streamline things. Like we were always very fortunate that our episode went out and then the next day the audio went out. I just want let's do it all. Just have it all. Take it all. So you'll have us on. You can watch us on Monday from 8 o'clock on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel, and then possibly from 6 o'clock onwards, because that's when I finish work. You will have the audio version available for you as well. The links for Bleeding Marvelous, Monsters Up North, Nerdy Up North are where, Dan?
Down there. Down there still.
Dan.
Down there.
Lovely nails. It's some nice nails. And if you are on YouTube, please like the video and hit the notification bell so
Ding, ding.
you never miss an episode. And if you're not already, subscribe. Come and join us. And if you are looking for us on audio, I must get this in line. I'm gonna have to like tailor this a bit better. But if you are on if you are listening to us, or if you're trying to look for us on audio, you need to search Monsters Up North. Not Nerdy Up North. We're on the Nerdy Up North platform for videos, but Monsters Up North is where you will find us on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, Edge. Anyone want to explain to me what Edge is? Because I don't know. But we're there. We're everywhere. Anywhere you get your podcast from, you'll find us. And if you are listening and you can leave a review, a like, a heart, a share, I don't know, just tell us you're there. We would love to know. I think that's it. I really got to streamline, sort that part out, but I will. Next week's The Crazies. This has been Frankenhooker. Is that it? Well, there's nothing else left to say. Say goodbye, Dan.
Would you like a sandwich?
Actually, See you spooky, everyone. Bye.